Okay, so today's video is going to be slightly more chill. It's going to be a updated journey video of my experience selling specifically coloring books through Amazon KDP. So as you can see, I've sold over 94,000 units. I'm going to go into my account so that you can see that this is legit, and of course pair this with the amount that have come through advertising as well. But since we have so many updated insights, I thought I'd better make a new video about my journey with coloring books. We're going to be talking about the whole saturation thing when it comes to coloring books in 2024 and beyond. We're going to be debunking a ton of myths. We'll talk about the YouTube bullshit that exaggerates the possibilities with coloring books. Take a look at my sales journey so people can see how long it's taken. We'll take a look at how many sales come from ads. We'll take a look at tools, how I've been getting reviews. We'll talk about the niches and keywords, the book quality progression, Amazon ads, of course. And then briefly, we're going to talk about building away from Amazon. So if we come into my account here, we have 35 coloring books selected with 94,341 units sold. And as you can see, most of these come from 2023 and 2024. We'll talk about this progression in the upcoming slide. From Amazon ads, we have around 3,000 units, I believe it is, from I think around January. There's around 3,000 units here that come specifically from advertising campaigns. I don't know how much that is in money. Maybe $7,000 or $8,000. I'm not 100% sure. I will need to find that out. But we're going to be talking about this very specifically. The advertising side of things is something I feel extremely passionate about and almost angry about. We're going to have a whole slide dedicated to that you have to listen to. So let's get into this, and I want to talk about the whole saturation thing first. Since we have the introduction of AI, we have seemingly infinite amount of videos that are pushing this perspective that selling coloring books is a get rich quick scheme on YouTube. There are channels dedicated to telling you how much money you can make through certain niches, which of course is going to have an influence on the amount of books that gets uploaded. Some people's videos have over 1 million views that talk about coloring books in particular, which leads a lot of people to come to the conclusion that KDP is saturated with these type of books. And my opinion on this is that I don't care. Like, it could be saturated, it could be the best thing ever, it can be your side hustle, it can be your main business, it can be anything you want it to be. But personally, for me, it makes no difference. In fact, my best-selling books are from 2023 and 2024, and I have 4 right now they're currently in review to be released this month. And there's always been this kind of shady side on YouTube where you're watching these videos and you're like, do these people actually make any money from these type of books? And whilst I completely understand obviously that it's not a smart idea to show your books off, I do actually show every single book that I publish on my main pen name inside of my membership. Every single week I talk about the books that I'm publishing, the updates, the angles, the niches, everything that I do. I talk about every single week inside my membership because I want people to see what I'm doing so people can feel inspired, get some ideas, and see exactly what it takes. And the whole saturation thing, people have been saying it since 2012 when I started. I was doing like ebooks, short romance things. People were complaining. But ultimately, it's been the same case that you just do something better, you do something different, you try and be the first into certain ways of taking an angle on a niche. It's always been the case, and it's always been working consistently across every single type of book I've ever published. And it's more so relevant for coloring books, which we'll talk about as we go through this video. But of course, my 100% honest perspective on the saturation thing is that it's just a lame outlook. Like, there's nothing to make this clear, there's nothing wrong at all with quitting something. There's nothing wrong with it. I've quit so many things online. I've done the whole drop shipping, TikTok thing, Amazon FBA, pretty much everything you could imagine I've tried. And I've quit a lot of things mainly because I had no desire to stick on it for the long run. But to come in and say something is saturated because you've published 2 books, or you can see there's a lot of views on YouTube, is just a bad perspective in general. And I don't want to make too much of a point about these YouTube videos that talk about niches and how much you can make with certain niches. Of course, use your brain here. Does it make sense for people to talk about things in this way? No, it doesn't, but it does push more people to making these kind of effortless effortless books, they're not making any sales because they momentarily get really excited about the possibility of making a ton of money. And then when they realize they can't make any money, they quit. So there's a lot of bad books being pushed from these type of videos. Again, not to be distasteful, because I love a lot of channels that are out there, but some are dreadful. So KDP is saturated. Again, if you believe that you're going to upload 1 to 5 books, that you're going to make a killing, and I don't know where this has started from. In fact, I do know where it started from. It starts from YouTube, but it takes a lot more than uploading 1 to 5 books. I know some people that have uploaded 2 books and made a ton of money. Obviously, they're going to be exceptional cases, but in my case, I was looking at specifically for coloring books around, I think it was around 40 books, around 20 before I started really getting some traction with the coloring book sales. So yes, it takes some time, which is why I always believe that you shouldn't put all of your effort and time into producing one book. We'll talk about failure percentages as we go through this. Has it gotten harder with the introduction of AI? And my answer to this again is I don't know, and I don't care. Like, I don't care for these kind of mental barriers that stop people from going through with doing things that they want. I just don't care at all. I do the things that I want. I do the things as best as I can, and it's always worked out extremely well. So my feel, and again, this is kind of how Amazon works in terms of giving opportunities to the little guy, is my belief and observations from the last decade of doing this, is that everyone gets a chance with their book when they launch their book onto Amazon. You get this kind of honeymoon period where, yes, I think you do have to generate some sales from ads, but I do believe that everyone gets their chance to test their book into the marketplace and have the chance to make a ton of sales. And again, I don't want to talk about this for too long, because I think as soon as you think is KDP saturated or is anything saturated, then I think you've already lost. And I don't think you need to look for someone to convince you otherwise. These are just my perspectives here. So I'm going to take a look at my sales journey just to give you an idea of how long it's taken me to get to a point where I started making good sales every single month. So around 4,000 to 5,000 sales. And then during Q4, obviously it's much higher. So let's talk about my coloring book sales journey, as in how long it's taken to actually see some great results. So I went into this completely blind with coloring books. I had no idea what I was doing back in 2021, just uploading books here and there. Did the same thing in 2022, just uploading books, hoping low quality books. I did quite a few of them, hoping to make some sales, made a few sales, nothing life-changing. And then in 2023, completely changed the approach here, went against the grain, did everything people tell you not to do, and that's where I started seeing the most success. And of course 2024 is going to be similar to last year. Hopefully with Q4 coming, we're going to end up around 60,000 sales from coloring books this year. So for me, this is why I wish I had back in 2021, I wish I had someone look at my books and wish I had someone tell me this is not good enough, you shouldn't be running ads to these books. And again, this is why we do what we do inside of the Raydog membership, is so that we can give people this head start so they don't spend years guessing if their books are good enough, guessing if they should be running ads to their books. And if that's something that interests you, we have a free version of the community, the Raydog community, that you can check out. Of course, there's a paid version if you're super serious about taking this to the next level. I'll leave that in a link in the description if you want to check it out at any point. But it is important, when you see the results online like this, you need to understand that there are some of these results are coming from advertising. Now, if people aren't showing you their ads, but they're showing you big numbers, I would say that's a pretty big red flag. So hopefully this gives you some interesting insights. I've had around, I didn't want to spend too much time working this out, but I think it's between 3 and 5% coming from ads. So I heavily focus my strategies around the organic possibilities on Amazon and of course Q4. So as you can see from the chart in the last screen, the sales look like they're kind of lowish in comparison to 2023, but that's because a ton of them, at least half of your year's income, will come from Q4. It's super powerful, and that's why I love doing coloring books. They're a great gift. They can go absolutely mental during Q4. And there is this notion, and I see with my channel, I want to talk about everything I'm actively doing with and show results for the type of books that I'm doing as well. So there is this notion that you have to spend thousands every single month to make a profit from publishing, or even to just get some form of visibility. Now, when it comes to coloring books in particular, where you're selling them for $6.99, $7.99, $8.99, maybe tops $9.99, you're kind of banking on this Amazon virality factor where like the organic sales will just take over. You have a great gift product that people are buying tons and tons of every single month, and you don't need ads to do that. I can promise you, you don't. So I use ads, and we'll talk about ads in a separate section here. I use ads to launch the book, and when it makes sense, to scale certain campaigns. So basically to push, to give an extra boost of sales to books that are already proven to be doing well. So like I said, we're going into a little bit more detail as I go into that section of the slide, but the focus of ads is not just to get as many sales as you can from ads, but it then shifts onto putting more money into those winning books, the ones that you've tested, into the marketplace. And then you put more advertising spend back into those winning books where it makes sense to do so. And just to make things slightly controversial here, for me, there is no ad strategy, and I'm going to explain why. Again, I don't mean to keep teasing this, but I explain why as we get into the ads section, because it's something I feel extremely passionate about. So before we get into that, I want to talk about tools, I want to talk about getting reviews, and I want to talk about using different software. So I'm going to show you why I put this on screen here, because this is an updated insight that involves AI. We'll talk about this in a second, but I've had around 2,000 reviews across all of my books, so that maybe makes about 1 in 50 people leaving a review for this book, which I think is consistent across what other people have seen as well. Now, I published a few, I got around 4 or 5 bold and easy coloring books. The reviews for them, they come in a lot slower. And also, if you're doing bold and easy stuff, you'll notice that the advertising conversions are much higher than a typical book. And I think that's got something to do with possibly competitors clicking on your advertising, your advertising listing, and the vast amount of options that the customer has with these books as well. They click. There's a lot of traffic that comes through TikTok. Literal millions of views come from TikTok. So a lot of people are clicking across different books, which means that your advertising spend, your conversions might not be the best for this niche. And that's the beauty of actually doing this yourself. You get these insights. So across all of these reviews, I have paid for zero. I have not asked anybody ever to leave a review for my books, and it's one of the biggest, not lies, but maybe a myth when it comes to publishing coloring books, is that you need to have 20, 30, 40 reviews before you can test your next book. It's not true. It's not true at all. And I'm not saying having reviews won't help. I can 1,000,000% promise you, you don't need reviews, because you're looking at a product that is going to be an impulse buy. People don't need social proof. If it's something that is going to help you for like $20, that's going to help you cure your arthritis or something, then yes, people want to see that it's legit, that it has that social proof. Whereas coloring books, these are just going to be a gift. Someone's going to buy it for someone, they're going to throw it at them or whatever and say, here's your shit coloring book, go color it in. People don't care about the reviews. But saying that, in terms of keeping your book ranked and slightly increasing your conversions, yes, I do think having reviews on your books is important. But the point is, they will come in naturally. And again, anecdotal and across other successful sellers as well, this has always been the case. I can 1,000,000% promise you. So I don't really use any tools anymore, specifically keyword research tools. What I do use is a reverse ASIN tool. I use the Helium 10 one. It's called Cerebro. I think there are other tools that have a reverse ASIN stuff now. There's plenty of them. I think Self-Publishing Titans has it. I think Publisher Rocket has it. I think Book Beam has it as well. I don't know which the best is, nor do I care to recommend any at this time, because most of you probably have one of these tools already, but that's the only tool I use in terms of keywords. So how have I created most of these titles and subtitles? Now, this for me is one of the most interesting insights, because I'm big on emphasis. I don't believe the emphasis should go into doing a ton of keyword research. I don't believe that. I think you can make a title and a subtitle quite quickly using Amazon's search bar plus your brain, or even ChatGPT. So just to quickly show you how I would create a title and a subtitle, and this is what I've been doing for every single one of my books. Sometimes I create this kind of big keyword cloud where I take keywords from Amazon's suggestions, the search bar. Sometimes I use the reverse asyn tool. Then I just think about a logical search term, and then I take keywords from competitors' books as well, then craft them all into two logical phrases, the first being the title, the second being the subtitle. So just to give you an idea how I would create, or how I have been creating across the last couple of years, the titles and subtitles for my book is just to use Amazon's search bar. So you'd start typing in what your kind of niche or broad niche is, see what Amazon suggests alongside that, write down all those keywords, create like a big keyword cloud of all the relevant keywords for your niche. You could probably do all this with the reverse asyn tools. Go over to competitors' listings, see which keywords are being used frequently, come up with some ideas from your own brain, put them all together, create yourself a title and a subtitle that is relevant, that has some keywords in it that makes sense, and that is it. In fact, for some of these now, I will like copy other people's titles from Amazon, paste it into ChatGPT and say, hey, look, this is the niche that I'm entering into. Can you give me a keywordy type of title and subtitle that is similar to the popular sellers? And the point is that you don't have to take that much time researching and having all these Excel sheets with all the different keywords and 100 different keyword tools. It's not needed. And again, I know this for a fact because I've been down this road before where I focused heavily on keywords. And the reality is you get relevant keywords in there, you get a few sales to your book. If it takes off, it takes off. It doesn't, then you have to work out a way to manage the books that don't take off, which we'll talk about in the upcoming slides. And I know that it seems like I've just brushed over the importance of keywords because I do believe they are important. But you got to trust me when I say that you should not be putting your emphasis on specifically onto keywords. So my most recent addition when it comes to software is using Trello. So Trello just allows me to kind of keep things organized. I'm not affiliated with Trello or anything like that. I just used it in one of my recent live calls. Trello has been fantastic for keeping things organized for me and to also give myself a ton of ideas. So I'll show you very quickly what this looks like. So basically what I have inside of Trello is I have a niches. It works in boards, and then you put cards inside of these boards. So what I have is niches and angles, then the actual books that I release, and the rest is not relevant to this video. So for example, I come into the niches and angles section here, keep it super simple. And then what I do is I type out the broad niche, which could be like these cute friends or the fuzzy friends stuff, or bold and easy coloring books, or motivational coloring books, or whatever the broad niche is. And then I come into my angles and unique selling point section, and then I start typing out a ton of angles that makes sense for this niche. So this is what I do. This is what I was doing before, but without Trello. You just come in, you think about some unique angles that make your book stand out, whether it's just the book cover, whether it's an angle that makes sense for the specific niche. You come in, write these down, and then when you finalize on the one that makes the most sense, you put that into your book release section. And then inside the book release section, you have things like the keyword research. You put all your keywords in there. You link to your Canva files, you link to the interior file, you have your book covers in there. Obviously, I don't want to show off everything in this video. I did a live call about this, which went down really well last week. Those calls are all recorded inside the membership. If you ever want to go back, look at my main pen name and how I do all this properly, you can check that out in the description below. But that's Trello. That's just how I use it to keep organized and to give myself a ton of new ideas. So here's an interesting one is I can't ignore AI any further. Like I hire someone to do the interiors for my book and they do an incredible job. They're an amazing person. I love giving them work, but we just can't keep ignoring AI. Not here to have discussions about the moral side of things here because I don't care. But what I'm looking at doing for the next book that I'm working on is to have ChatGPT or whatever AI software to generate an image idea and then pass that over to the designer who's not going to trace it. But what this is going to allow them to do is to kind of have the template that they can work with. So they know that this is the layout that I want with 3 different characters, the characters that I want, the general sort of scene that I can come up with, so they can go ahead and create the images quicker, which is going to drive the cost down, which is going to allow me to continue giving them work, but also gives me more content back in return. Okay, so super interesting stuff. I'm going to be talking about this in an upcoming live cool for the membership group, because I think it is some super powerful stuff. Let's move on. We'll talk about failure percentages, because we've been led to believe that you can upload 1, 2, 3 books and see success. And yes, some people do, but it's not the reality. And I'm going to use one of my case study books as an example here, which is a swear word coloring book. We'll talk about this in a second. But for me, out of these 35 to 40 books, we're looking at around between 3 and 5 of those books fail to break even or make money. So around 3 of them, 4 of them have lost money. So this seems like a huge percentage that is winning. Like, how is that the case? I'll tell you why. So what happens with this is that a small percentage of your books are going to take off, provided that you meet a certain quality. Obviously, they can't all just be shit books. A small percent will take off no matter how good they are, as in no matter how high the quality is. They're going to take off, they're going to do very well. Then you'll have a chunk that seem to do well, like 50 to 200 sales a month. And then the rest recoups over time and through Q4. So this is why it is important we don't have an emotional attachment to every single book and spend tons of money on every single book in terms of advertising spend. And we have a cutoff strategy, because for coloring books and low content books, it's insanely important. Okay, so I'm going to do, in a second, I'm going to do a really quick mini case study on how I've dealt with this situation here, so that we end up breaking even on the products that don't work for us, or even make money on these products that seem to have failed. Okay, so it took a long time for me to get this kind of breakthrough point, as I can say, where the failure percentages were much better. The first few books, or how many it was, 10 or whatever, they weren't great. But like I say, if you manage your books the way that I think people should be managing their books, so they're not losing a ton of money, you can make your money back on a lot of the projects that you put out there. So just to do a very mini quick case study on this book here, I launched this book, I think it was like $120 of advertising spend. The metrics for the ads were okay, the ranking was okay, but what was happening is I was losing money every single month with this book. For the first couple months I was losing money, which I know some people will say that's normal, but you have to hedge your bets. You can't keep losing money and banking on the fact that maybe in another month you're going to make the money back. So with this book here, if we search for swear word coloring book, I take a look at certain metrics, and the ranking for strong keywords is one that I look at. So what we can see is the book is ranked quite well, but even though the book was selling quite well, the organic sales weren't particularly good. The advertising was okay. I didn't want to keep running ads to it. So what I do in these cases, I won't go into too much detail as to why, but I up the price to $9.99, and the book is still actively selling at $9.99. This month so far it's sold 40 copies, which makes a $3 royalty from $9.99, which is obviously around $120. Okay, so all organically after the launch period. So this management of books is what is super important to make sure that everything, or a lot of the books that you put up, actually have a chance of making the money back. Whether it's over a month, whether it's over 6 months, 3 months, or a year, we can make the money back. And during Q4, I'm going to expect around 3 times the amount of sales, which will ultimately lead to this book making a profit. And if you're interested to know what I think about my own project here, I'm going to rate the whole project in its entirety as a 6.5 out of 10 for perspective. So you don't have to have the best book ever, but having a 1 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10 book is unlikely to make you sales unless you upload a lot of them. So hopefully that's making sense. Now, one of the most important things that anyone can do, like if you look at the sales chart at the start of this video, you would have seen that in 2021 I was making no sales, 2022 I was making no sales, 2023 is when things start taking off. There was a huge jump in quality of book that was being made between 2021 and 2023, and the results work alongside that quality. So most people's books, most of my books from back in the days, were a 3 out of 10 in their overall quality department, when really a lot of people think that their books are amazingly good. They just don't know if their books are good enough. And it's super important that you understand that this book on the right hand side here is at best a 4 out of 10, probably a 3 out of 10. Maybe I'm being slightly harsh, but I just don't like that. So most of the, the first 10 to 20 coloring books that I produced, they all kind of fell into this category where they just weren't good enough. I didn't understand that they weren't good enough. So what we need to do is to hit this kind of 7 out of 10 quality mark, because this is what's going to be vital for making a ton of organic sales and even making sales back, making a profit when the book doesn't quite hit it off in the marketplace. So again, it is mega important that you are progressing with the quality of your book. And I can completely understand that it is hard sometimes to know what sort of stage that you're at. So this is one of the reasons why I set up the Raydog community. Inside the Raydog community, we have a Discord where we have a ton of things going here where you can get a lot of feedback, specifically the seller room, where people can come in and post their book covers for me and other people to take a look at and give feedback on. This room is a necessity, in my opinion, for understanding where you are with your publishing journey, and actually being able to act upon the feedback that is given to you is a complete game changer. So if you're super serious about getting feedback, feel free to check this out, chrisraydog.com. We have a free version that you can sign up to. Take a look around, take a look at some of the snippets from the course content, come see which channels you can come take a look at the channels that are inside the Discord. But yeah, that's chrisraydog.com. It's linked below. And inside the membership, we have a lot of other things that we're currently working on. We have things that we offer at the moment, like monthly niche reports, a ton of course content, all the strategies that I've been using. Obviously, we have live weekly group coaching calls, which are all recorded. If you ever want to go look back at these, you can find them inside of the Raydog Live section. I talk about my books, the books that make me all these sales. Every single week I give updates because I love publishing, I love talking about it, and I love sharing this with people. But yeah, if you're serious, do yourself a favor and check that out. But this is going to lead me on to Amazon ads. Amazon ads are, we'll talk about launching and monitoring in a second, but Amazon ads, in my opinion, are the biggest joke in the room. So this is after spending, I think it's $17,000 from the start of this video. You can see that $17,000 on Amazon ads across quite a lot of books. Maybe, I don't know how many it is, but it's a stupendous amount of books, a lot of money. I learned a lot, and I've come to conclude Amazon ads are a bit of a joke. So the reason I say this is because a set strategy has never worked for me. After $17,000 of spend on these lower priced books, a set strategy has never worked for me. You cannot rely on a set strategy. There are just too many variables involved here for someone to come and tell you, hey, this is the best strategy. It's going to work for every type of book that is published, because it just really isn't true. So when we hear about these fancy techniques and optimizing your ads and all these things that seem really great, they only work on books that are winners. So when these books win, we squeeze out extra life from them by optimizing them, creating more campaigns, removing negative search terms, and creating menu campaigns from the ones that are converting well. All these things, we don't have to worry about them for the vast majority of our ad spend. This is what I've noted across my coloring book journey, is that there hasn't been one set way of doing things, and a lot of my campaigns, they have to cut them off. Maybe people don't show you this, but you need to turn off a lot of your campaigns, because we're not here to lose money and keep paying Jeff a lot of money. And one thing to note here is that $17,000 is over 6 years. Okay, so it's slowly but surely increasing the spend when it makes sense to do so. So launching and monitoring is the only strategy that you will ever need for these type of books. Is that you will ultimately, when your book is good enough, you launch it with some advertising spend, you see how it does, and you monitor certain metrics to make a decision if it's worth continuing advertising spend. I know people who will religiously put $1,000 into every single book, regardless of the quality, regardless of the metrics, and then get really pissed off when they lost a ton of money. So this is what I've done for every single one of my books to make sure that my advertising spend is relatively low. So like I said, 5% of sales coming from ads, and then the rest coming organically. You launch the book, see how the marketplace takes to it during that launch period, And then you monitor the metrics like your cost per click, your organic sales, your rankings, and things like that. It's quite simple stuff, but it is something that you really do need to monitor and consider, and getting that right, it can be quite daunting. So again, this is one of the reasons why we offer so many different channels inside of the Raydog membership, is so people can come into the pro chat, so they can drop their advertising statistics for me and other people to take a look at. Then we can look at these metrics and say, look, you know, this is good or this is bad. Now you need to make an educated decision from here on. We're not going to give you some stupid fancy advertising strategy. We're going to look at the facts here, so you can make great decisions going forward based off your price, based off your conversions, based off your rankings, organic sales, all those things that you actually need to make decisions on. And these are the type of things that add up, these decisions that people make, that we're helping people make. They add up to saving people a ton of money from wasting a ton of money on advertising spend, which is super important, because spending too much on ads for low and medium content books, specifically coloring books, is vital that you get this right. The journey on selling coloring books through Amazon, my upshot of this is, if you're going to do something, do it seriously, do it the best that you can. Don't complain about the small shit, just get on and do it, build something, and build something away from Amazon. So before we talk about that, and before I end this video, my future with coloring books, I'm still heavily invested in Amazon and this year's Q4, because it can make a ton of money. Obviously, I'm going to be looking at collecting as many emails as possible. I have a smallish email list that I've built so far. I think it's around 400 to 500 subscribers on my list, which is important going forward. I'm going to look at reducing the production costs by using those kind of AI hybrid methods that I spoke about. In terms of the actual books and the niches, what I want to do is to create more unique books to try and become the first into a niche, which means you'll be taking the majority of the sales. And then of course, we should all be looking at building away from Amazon, being free from all the problems that come with being on Amazon, which I'll save for a different video. But creating a website, driving traffic to your website, selling things, upselling things, all those great things that build an actual business for you, is a big factor going into 2025. So that's it for this video. And if it sounds like I'm out of breath, it's because I'm not well, but I hope you enjoyed this updated journey video. If you want to check out the membership, it's chrisraydog.com. It's linked below. I'd love to see you there. There's a free version. Sign up for that if you want to get involved. Otherwise, I'll see you in another video very soon.